Welcome, thank you for watching. Today will be the launch of the FilmEU RIT, Research, Innovation and Transformation. Now speaking, the FilmEU coordinator, Manuel José Damasio and Viral van der Slouch.
So I'll take this one. Okay, so good afternoon everyone and welcome to this kickoff session of FilmEU RIT. I'll be hosting this session with Verley on my side, and we'll try to explain you what FilmEU RIT is all about. First of all, we should start by saying that FilmEU RIT is a parallel project to FilmEU. It's the H2020 funded part of the FilmEU broader project. So it basically deals with everything that is related with research inside the future European University FilmEU. FilmEU RIT officially starts today, but the project was actually designed many months ago, and it's funded under a specific line of funding of H2020 called the SWAFT that has everything to do with opening to society. So today we'll give you a very broad overview of what the project will deal with, and I hope we will convince you that this is an incredible project. It's going to change the world. There are already rumors about this all over the place, and Verley is going to explain you a little bit more in detail where we started from.
So yes, where did we start from? So we made a SWOT analysis, I think 8 months ago, also based on the collaborations already taking place in FilmEU, and looked how our research, how our artistic research is already embedded in the different partners institute, and how research is already tackled within the FilmEU European University Initiative. There is already a work package 6 on research and innovation in the FilmEU project. I can tell you the strengths. So the strengths we can categorize like in 4 different, from 4 different angles, from international, specialized, craft-oriented, high impact. We have this FilmEU University Initiative that brings together these high-profile, practice-based educational institutes. Every institute is already internationally networked and actively contributing to different network organizations, for instance, SELECT, ELIA. Every school is actively looking for mobility of students, teachers, and researchers. The next strength we indicated was we, as 4 institutes making up the FilmEU consortium, do already have an important record of setting up joint masters, the Erasmus Mundus joint masters. And within the FilmEU initiative, we are working on extending this portfolio of trajectories. Although we are only with 4 at this time, we already have a geographical coverage of Europe. So we have the partners spread around Europe. Every one of the institutes has a high level of attractiveness, and by working together on an international and in an international context, with working out educational programs and also in research, this level will become even higher. We have an eclectic body of teachers and professionals involved in our educational programs. And this results, of course, already in an impressive volume of artistic production from students and from also teachers and professionals involved. And last but not least, the different schools come with a large network of alumni that we try also to incorporate in this project and in the coming projects. Of course, there are also weaknesses, and that's why we also need this Horizon project. Weaknesses that our schools, and also what I already told you, it's in principle educational based. We are still looking for a way also to bring research to the same level as our educational programs. So for the 4 institutes, our policy is that we want to bring this research actively to the front and not longer as an extra, as a layer below our education. So we bring research on this same level. We have a lot of recognized teachers in film and media arts, that is for sure, but do not really recruit on people with research competences, or not as much as we would like to. This also results in that we only have a small percentage of our people working with different schools that have research as their main activity within the schools. Another important weakness is the position of artistic research itself. As a young research domain, a lot of work still has to be done to position this type of research amidst more settled disciplines in science and humanities. Another weakness, so doing research also means that this is reflected in education. This incorporation of innovation in teaching and in the curricula is one of the main focus points. If we want to bring research to the front, we also have to invest in research related to related to careers, and also to develop research careers within our institutes. Another weakness is the money. Film and art schools are very expensive per graduate student, so this is another weakness. And you will tell me the opportunities and the challenges this project can bring.
Okay, so basically we designed a project that tries to bridge the gap and profit from something that is now on top of the agenda, which is this putting the A into the STEM agenda. So when we designed this H2020 project, we came up with this idea of transforming our institutions to become also research-driven institutions. As Verly said, none of the institutions currently in the consortia is a research university. So we tried to figure out how to do this. And our understanding is that this STEAM agenda is a major opportunity that we can profit from. So I would say that besides obviously other aspects that we can also profit on, the STEAM agenda is a key aspect of what we can learn, what we can do with this project. Obviously, and attached to that, we are trying to convince the world that we are doing something which is different from others also operating in this field. And that's why we are trying to come up with our own agenda in terms of research around something that is widely known. It has been discussed for ages, but it's seldom been discussed in the context of film schools, which is artistic research or practice-based research. So basically what we are trying to do is to design our own research agenda within FilmEU RIT, and then push that agenda towards the bigger project of setting up this European university. And obviously, like in real world, there are opportunities, but there are also threats. I'm tired of talking about COVID-19, so we'll just forget that one, and we'll stick to money, okay? Because yeah, that's probably more important. So we know that there is diminishing funding for the arts. We know that in the current context, film is a mess in most countries. Even today, only yesterday, I was in a meeting with a Portuguese company that survives on earning money out of theaters. Theaters have been closed for a lot of time in the last 2 years, so their business is not going that well. So when the value chain shakes due to something like COVID-19, I think everyone is affected. Our schools were all affected. We as individuals were affected, and obviously research activities were also affected. We are very lucky because we are only now starting. COVID-19 is gone, and a lot of money will be invested in this field in the next months. No, it's not true, but we hope it will. So, but there's a threat of not being, okay?
So we aim high. We are very ambitious, so the general objectives of this project is that FilmEU RIT will develop a common research and innovation agenda for artistic research supported by common resources. We will work together, even more working together, joint structures that will increase talent attraction and the impact of the research developed amidst the alliance. The other general objective is that the FilmEU RIT is the capacitation of research and innovation in the individual higher education institutes that integrate the alliance. And we want to do this by joint design of strategies, action plans, and to ensure that the transformation for the future European university into an institution that also puts research on the same level as our education in the fields of film and media arts. At the center of the activities we want to do as higher education schools, and also act as a critical cultural intermediary.
Now I'm going to tell you a very small and brief story, because this idea of the critical cultural intermediary, which is a wonderful expression, no one, at first glance, no one understands what it stands for. It was actually devised by one of the most fascinating examples of an artistic school, which is the School of Circus in Canada, in Toronto, where Cirque du Soleil was originally devised. And they came up with this idea that research that is done in the arts has an impact in society. And it can work as an intermediary between different parts of society, the organizations, the companies, the schools, and the objectives of society in a broader sense. It's very funny because this was designed, they came up with this idea in the 80s, and then maybe 15, 20 years ago, the EU came up with this idea of the knowledge triangle, and they are now changing it into a square. I think it will be a pentagon in the next 10 years, but it's exactly the same. So the idea behind many of our objectives is that by setting up research that has an impact in society, an impact in the sense of developing something in terms of artistic research that is distinctive from the other research. We are not saying it's better or worse. We're just saying it's distinctive because it has this ability to link to society. And I think that the work we've done so far, and by setting as one of our objectives this idea to do research that is relevant, falls into this category of the cultural intermediary.
This was the slide.
Okay.
So another object of the objectives, more specific, is then to enable the students, the staff and teachers across all partner institutions with this critical thinking, this technical thinking, and also the methodological skills that allow them to undertake research activities and to enhance students' learning by joining theory with experience and thought with action. We want to support and promote the restructuring of funding policies and programs. This is a very important one because it's also very difficult to get this funding mechanisms adapted to what we as institutes, higher education institutes in the arts want to achieve with artistic research. And so, in line with other disciplines, science and humanities, we can also share or take part of this, the funding that is available on different levels, regional, national, and European. We want to promote the securing and embedding of this practice-based third cycle studies in higher arts education. In all the different institutes, it's now handled in some, in a different way, and we want, as a consortium, consortium partners, look into a mechanism that we can embed and propose an optimal structure for this. Design and implement a joint PhD program in film and media arts supported by common supervision models and shared HR.
And obviously, we also want to have a saying in what's going on in the industry. So following this idea of the knowledge triangle, we want to develop research that connects to the industry, and we want to design and implement a network of centers of competencies. This is a great expression, okay? This is because we came up with this idea of the FilmEU hub, and we don't exactly know how this hub will look. We only know it will be a constellation of centers, probably with a physical existence, but also with a digital layer that connects them. We are aiming at something close to the idea that the EU has for these large infrastructures for research, but they won't cost millions and millions. They won't be this telescope to look at Jupiter. What these hubs will do is they will support the emergence of these dynamic research clusters, which are at the core of our proposal. And Verli will explain in a little bit what these clusters are all about, because this is really the core idea behind all this application. And it's something that is also closely related to what RIT stands for, because RIT is not a person. RIT stands for Research, Innovation and Transformation. And these clusters are at the center of the transformation process.
So within FilmEU RIT, we want to design a platform how these clusters, so these dynamic clusters can start to grow, and therefore we will design and implement common virtual spaces and digital tools for this collaboration, including a virtual collaboration space, and we know everything about now how we have to virtually collaborate, a common media management tool and repository, and common media facilities and equipment management tools. We also want to increase the ability of the Alliance to attract and retain talent in education, but also talent in research, via the implementation of a common recruitment system and the enactment of the CNC principles via the Human Resources Strategy for Researchers, supported by a joint mechanism for evaluation and rewarding of researchers. We also want to design and agree upon joint management and joint governance structures. Also in FilmEU, we are already working towards these joint governance structures, and also for research, we want to bring this in, and that this platform can also be used on, and research can also be brought in on the same level.
And by now you are wondering, how is it possible to have so many objectives in only a 3 years project? Because they are extremely well written. Because if you actually look at it, this can all be reduced to 1 or 2 core objectives that all point to the same general objective, which is this idea of these institutions to be able to come together, via that jointness acquire more critical mass and act both at a local and global level. I would say that that's at the center of all these objectives that we have defined for the project.
So we have a lot of objectives within the project. These objectives have also a perspective in the long run. So we will fight and we seek to be recognized as this key critical cultural intermediary that develops relevant artistic practice-based research activities in the areas of film and media arts at this international level. So bring the regional, national, up to the international level. We endeavor to contribute through our activities and now to the legitimization and recognition of the relevance of artistic research. That is also one of our main challenges and also the main objective we want to reach. And therefore, we urge that funding policies and programs, both at national and international level, include artistic research, that the range of artistic research outputs that is also bigger and different than output from other disciplines is fully recognized also on this national and international level, and through appropriate legislation, a legal framework will be created that permits arts, higher education institutes to offer this third cycle study programs that are relevant degrees in artistic research. And how will we do this, Manuel?
Yes. That's the big question. Okay, so, and the answer is partly done with the fact that we started this first summit of FilmEU by kicking off FilmEU RIT. Because FilmEU RIT, I think, is the perfect example of the transformation this project is all about. When we started this adventure of the European universities, we had almost no clue of what was expected of us. We still don't, but we are trying to make a better understanding, to have a better understanding of how the world will look 3 or 4 years from now for us, and it will all have to do with this transformation. So the project is designed along these transformation models. Each one of them deals with one or two or three of these objectives that we've just described. And in order to illustrate this, we came up with this incredible diagram. Verly, please. This is a life-changing moment, okay?
Yeah, this was tonight. Yesterday night, I got the presentation from Manuel, and he said, "Veerle, you have to present this slide." And I was looking at it, said, "Manuel, help! I have no clue what I have to tell about this slide." And now Manuel will.
Yeah, this is how we are going to
Okay.
actually do this, okay?
Okay.
Because we are going to set up these clusters, okay? So basically, we are going to get people in Belgium, in Ireland, in Portugal, in Hungary, to work together around something they are interested in. And that will be the basis of the clusters. And based on that, we are going to follow this model. And this model has been tested in theoretical terms in Europe for decades. There are very few examples of success, okay? If you go across the literature on clusters, you'll find similar models to this one. Most of them were disasters. Okay, there is a very famous example in Portugal, in the north of the country, of these clusters. Okay, it was a cluster around glass, which is an area where Portugal has a very long tradition. It went bankrupt in less than 6 months. Okay, so this one will work. Okay, because it is based on the principle of collaboration around a safe environment. Our idea is that people will work better if they are doing something they are actually interested in. Okay, it's a very good idea. Okay, so we'll organize these clusters around topics that are of interest, and the performance of the individual clusters will then feed the differentiation of the overall agenda. Okay, so at the core of all this are the clusters.
And it really complements what I have to say now. So this is my slide. So how I saw these dynamic research clusters, and it's what you're saying. It's about collaboration. It's about bottom up and not top down. And so it's really, it complements already the existing research structures that are in the different higher educational institutes. We don't have to put really structures on top of it. We want to work together, collaborate. So it's a network of researchers, practitioners, but also the creative industries. We can bring everybody in this cluster network, and they are linked through projects. They are linked through collaborations. And what's also very important, because we already work on different topics, but it needs to be visible. We need to bring it to the top and also show what expertise, what research is already there, to be able to find new research and to really find new potential, new clusters. So it's a bottom-up approach, embracing these small seeds, these small new initiatives, so that they can grow within this network. It's dynamic in time and space. This means that this network will not stay the same in 1, 2, 5, 10 years. It will change focus. So in time it will change its focus. It will adapt to new questions. It will adapt to new trends. And it's also not. It's also dynamic in space, and this means that we will want to bring new partners on board, new expertise coming in. So other partners can also be included in the network. So this was the last one. It's expandable. It can grow over time.
And obviously, all of you that went to Prest somewhere in your life reading Deleuze, notice that this is very similar to the kind of rhizomatic reasoning, okay? But it was a pure accident, because this has nothing to do with that approach. It is highly related with collaboration that builds on the small things. And in order to attain that, we came up with this very simple methodology that we are going to implement across the different work packages of the project. So what we are going to do is actually small pilots where we are going to test these collaborations. So we came up with different topics that we knew that we already had people that were interested in. We are also submitting new applications under different calls related with those smaller topics, and based on that we will reinforce collaboration between the different researchers that are already there in the institutions that are part of the alliance, but also new people that we want to attract. So this 6IS methodology, we have the patent for this because it's a very good idea. The I stands for information, investigation, ideation, implementation, incubation, and incrementation. And it's this cycle that in all projects we will be going through. Okay, so it's a very simple model that will, we hope, result in...
Okay. This also you.
The roadmap. Okay, will result in a roadmap that will allow us to, via these pilots, evaluate the process we've come up with, and somewhere around 2024, 2025, somewhere around there, produce recommendations on the final structure of these clusters. Okay, so that's the overall objective. So the overall objective of the project is that by 2024, 2025, we will have tested this method that we came up with. In order to do this, we have come up with the design of the project. Oh, this is also mine?
Yes, I
Ah, okay, yeah, the different work packages, very simple. Traditional model, so 6 work packages, everyone participates in most of them, different leaders for each one of the work packages. The work packages follow the roadmap, okay? So not that interesting. I think what's relevant here is how these work packages are actually aligned with what we are doing in FilmEU. So I would say that for all of you here in this room and all the others online, we hope that somewhere along this process, we will convince you that although you might think that some of the work you are doing is not research, it is actually practice-based or artistic research. So there is room to explore these connections in the context of FilmEU RIT. FilmEU RIT is closely aligned with Work Package 6 in FilmEU, so the teams are almost the same, but we also want to bring more people on board, and we also want to explore more connections between these different work packages and the main work packages in FilmEU. Somewhere along the process, this will all become one. Okay, it started as a separate entity, but somewhere along the process it will all become one. I think we should explain that the reason for FilmEU RIT to be separate from FilmEU, it's not our fault. Okay, so this is the mandate of the EU, that these projects are funded separately.
So if we see how the 6 work packages are organized, so here you have, of course, this management work package, but the main and the most important ones are the ones in the middle, I think. So the work package 2 is really working on this research agenda and how to organize and start and bring these dynamic clusters into movement. So we will come up with like a roadmap, a toolkit, how you can grow in this dynamic research clusters. This means that we, in work package 3, we will focus on, I think, 3 or 4 pilots that will use this toolkit, this roadmap, and maybe refine it and come up with other strategies to start artistic research projects within the context of film and media arts. And another component of this dynamic research framework, dynamic research cluster framework is the talents. The talents that need to be on board and that we also have to offer, also the possibilities to stay on board, that the knowledge and the expertise remains in this network. This will also be communicated with the outside network, and in the work package 5, this is the work package where we will go in dialogue with the other European university initiatives. How are they working, or how do they set up these structures? So the networking work package will also bridge other initiatives. And finally, when all is finished and when also the FilmEU University project is finished, we come up with a FilmEU University that can tackle and we will work together on educational, but also on the research base of our institutes. Everything, so the big aim of this project, this Horizon project, is come up with like a toolkit to get this network of clusters, brought into, first make it visible, but then also that it can be brought to in other systems or in other dynamics.
We get to the end. This is the management structure of the project. It's not that interesting. What's interesting is what's next. So FilmEU is a long-term project. Okay, we are now talking of a funding until 24-25. We are already discussing with the EU the funding for the next 6 years and supposedly the funding for the next 10 years. Okay, we won't be here probably, but the ones that will follow us will discuss how all this will look around 2040. Okay, so we have embarked on the journey of a lifetime. Okay, and I'm not joking, because this is really something that is expected to change our institutions look, what we do, and how we intervene in society. I think that the fact that we have this opportunity is unique. The fact that we are linking teaching with research in the field of film and media arts is truly unique. Those of you who have participated in different forums where film schools have come together in the last decades know that research is rarely a topic under discussion, because in the past, most schools had no mandate to develop research activities. That has changed, the world has changed, and we as schools, if we want to be competitive, if we want to perform our mission better, this is something that we should strive for. It's something that has to be at the core, at the center of our activities. That's what we are trying to do with FilmEU RIT. And that's why we decided to start this first summit of FilmEU with this project, with the kickoff of this project, because we think it shows how dear to us it is, this topic of research, and how we consider it to be at the center of everything we are trying to do. For the next 3 days, we will have 2 days. We will have a large number of activities. Well, actually 2 to 3 days. It depends on the point of view. So tomorrow we are having the public side of this summit here during the day with a number of conferences and roundtables dealing with many aspects, namely research. The day after that, we are having meetings of all the different work packages inside FilmEU RIT. We regard those meetings as a unique moment for everyone to come together and get to know one another. For most of us, it's the first time we see one another in flesh, okay? I know it has been very traumatizing up until now, but it's going to improve because we'll then get used to see one another without being via these interfaces that we've become so used to in the last couple of months. For the rest of the afternoon, we would like to invite everyone to visit a very simple example of what research in the field of film and media arts can be in Studio F on the F building, which is the yellow building around the corner. On the ground floor, in one of the studios, we have prepared a cave for you to visit, which is one of the outcomes of a project that we've just concluded that relates cultural heritage with filmic experience, with the different possibilities that immersive media have. We think that it's a very simple example of something that we are all trying to do in terms of research. It's also an opportunity for you to see what we would like to do on a much bigger scale in the near future. I hope that by next year we will be maybe in Dublin or in Budapest or in Brussels, and we will have a proper showcase, an entire day of presentation of results of research, but then by then joint research. Okay, so that's our main objective. Some of us are involved in preparing the Marie Curie doctoral network application. For those of you who are involved in that application, the meeting will start at 4:30, and it will be on room F1.1, which is on top of the television studio. And we are meeting here again at 5 for the showcase of the films of the different films and projects of the different institutions. And then immediately after that, we are offering a very light cocktail in the Vimioso Palace, which is around the corner on the other side of the road. It's very close by. It's 5 minutes walking distance. I'm not even sure that there will be any peanuts or anything. No, just the glass of wine. No peanuts. Just fresh air, a lot of fresh air, okay? So don't raise your expectations, okay? It's a very simple thing. But basically, we wanted these days in Lisbon also to be an opportunity for interaction, okay? So please talk one with the others, introduce yourself. Oh, you know me, you've seen me for 24 hours, but I look differently, actually. So enjoy the rest of the day. And we thank you for your presence today, but we are open to questions. So we would like to know what questions you have. For instance, what are these pilots? What's the content of these pilots? So we have 10 minutes for questions and hopefully answers on our side. Your enthusiasm is heartbreaking, okay?
Okay, my question's a little bit, I mean, I was a few minutes late, but how is this project related to the FilmEU? Like, where does it kind of interface, like in a practical way? Because we do have a work package that's dealing with artistic research, and I'm just curious how.
It's a complete overlap and on purpose. So,
but this is starting now.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is that so due to bureaucratic reasons, there is a time gap between the main EU funding that you all know from FilmEU and this specific funding. So apparently, but the bodies are different. So there is one body inside the EU running the Erasmus, and there's another one running the Horizon, namely those days still the H2020. So it's a separate line of funding, but part of the activities are completely overlapped one with the others. Okay, I would say that FilmEU RIT is complementary to the main program. So this is kind of trying to build on preliminary results of Work Package 6 in FilmEU, and from there to work on this particular objective of putting the clusters together. Obviously, we built into FilmEU RIT activities that were not considered for many reasons in the original FilmEU application, and also some, I would say, all of the deliverables of FilmEU RIT are not exactly the same as the ones in FilmEU. So if you want to put this into perspective, I would say that FilmEU RIT stops 5 minutes before the train station. The train arrives to the station, and FilmEU RIT will take us to the station.
Same with the labs, presumably, too.
With the labs, yeah. More questions? Yeah.
Is there a plan? Is there a plan to publish something jointly in terms of the recommendations about artistic research in film at the end of this project, like a joint article from the different representatives of the schools on how artistic research should be done in film schools?
Yeah, I can contextualize that a little bit because there's a context behind this. It's important to say that this focus on artistic research is part of a larger process that is going on, led by a number of associations in the field, namely ELIA, ACE, the Association of Music Conservatoires, JECT, that has to do with changing the Frascati manual of the OCDE in order to include artistic research. Verly.
Yeah, now I lost what I wanted to say, Manuel. Yes, I think the work package 2 was really about the strategy and this toolkit. I think this should end up with like a publication on what's based on also the pilots we do in the other work package, kind of evaluation on how it works, how it does not work. So it's really, it's doing also research on what's the best strategy also to bring this artistic research in film schools. So definitely this come with a publication on the successes and the failures. I think the failures can also be very interesting to see how to not to proceed. So it's also about So in this project, we can also fail in setting up a structure. If you say in 6 months this model was not, the model you presented, Manuel, was failed. I don't know in what sector it was. It was in the glass sector. So this failure can also, learn us something how we should also proceed with it. There's definitely, there will be like a publication, and I think it's most in the work package too, we will come up with it. It's like an evaluation of the pilots.
Yes, and we've been working on that for the past months. So in the context of FilmEU, in the work package on research, that started maybe 6 or 7 months ago, we've had already come up with a publication, an interactive publication. So it's a preliminary report on artistic research based on a lot of discussions with experts, a lot of sessions we did, and we've already published a special issue on a journal specifically on the topic of artistic research. So it's something that is on top of our agenda, and it has been since the beginning of FilmEU.
Can you talk a bit more about this idea of putting the A into the STEM?
That's the thing of the moment.
I mean, how
no one
this
knows.
will be realized.
No one knows. In Portugal, 1 week ago, they closed under the resilience funds. They closed the call specifically under the STEAM agenda. If you went to the frequently asked questions, they had a topic, what STEAM stands for, and it said one thing in the first line and exactly the opposite in the last one. Because it's a buzzword that came from the US. It has to do with this concept of the liberal arts that is not that well known in Europe. So that's why for us it represents an opportunity. But the way we understand it in FilmEU, it has all to do, as Verly said, with transdisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity. It has all to do with this idea of connecting with other disciplines, with people in other areas. It has all, everything has to do with that.
Can also like be a pilot and that we come up with. So we already have like an indication of what possible pilots can come up, but it's also new pilots and maybe new calls that we can drop in as pilots are embraced in this in the project and can learn us how we should also work towards this STEAM or the A in STEM. Yes. Leen.
I wonder if you could say or talk a little bit more about the concrete topics of the clusters that you will be developing in this project.
I don't know the names of the clusters, but I know also that they are not definite ones. So it's also possible that new clusters come up, but we had to indicate some of them. And Manuel is going to say
so
which
basically
one
we tried to address what in our initial mapping exercises were some of the areas where expertise already existed in the different institutions. So we have a cluster focusing on archives, memories, and media memory, media remediation, and everything that has to do with this idea of an archaeology of the media. We have another one dealing with immersive media, XR, VR, whatever you want to however you want to name it. We have another one dealing with sound and the potential of the sound studies field. And then we have another one dealing with everything that has to do with perception, ranging from animation to special effects, to visual effects, and everything that has to do with cognitive perception of film. As Verly said, those clusters are tentative ones. Okay, so we are open to, just this morning we were talking about the relation or the role, for instance, business schools can have in relation with media research. We all know that in the past the field of media research was highly dominated by audience research. For instance, we don't have any cluster that deals with the spectator. We don't have any cluster that deals with the experience of being exposed to audiovisual media. So there's a lot of ground we need to cover. Those clusters were identified based on an initial mapping exercise, a very superficial one, and I think that we are more than open to extend them. What for us is crucial is that these pilots allow the people to collaborate. I would say that that's We don't want, so for us, it's not at all important if a tremendously high level of expertise exists in School HEI and they develop a very interesting project. If that does not involve researchers coming from the other schools, it won't allow us to attain the objectives of the project. So, but those are the initial clusters. Some of the projects that are defined in the initial clusters of FilmEU RIT are exactly the same or very similar to the ones we are now discussing in the context of the Marie Curie application, namely the theoretical framework of media archaeology, everything that has to do with the past, with memory, with reappropriation and remediation of media in contemporary context. So a lot of the topics we are dealing with are related with that.
And I think in the work package too, we will also have to come up with strategies to bring new topics up to the site, make them visible. Because now we did this mapping, but we didn't really have. Yeah, it was really asking, "What are you doing?" And so this mapping was not complete. So it should. We should also come up with a strategy to make it visible. This the possibilities and the different topics we still can explore and grow in.
Well, since there's this close connection between FilmEU and FilmEU RIT, is there a plan for allocating people from FilmEU or new people to FilmEU RIT?
The teams that were defined at the application stage are basically the ones that were already defined for FilmEU, namely for Work Package 6, because there is a close connection between the two. There's room in this project to, as Verly mentioned while we were going through the objectives, one of the objectives of the project is to capacitate the institutions. So there's room to bring in new people. Okay? One thing which for us is not at all clear is we already know by now that the EU is going to continue to fund the European universities, but it's not at all clear if that will also include specific Horizon calls. So we know this will be used to bring new people on board, but we are not sure exactly how that will be framed in the broader context of FilmEU. Okay, but there was a mentioning there of an acronym that most of you probably have never seen before. That thing that has to do with the European career for researchers. That aspect is going to be crucial across our institutions because it's really going to change the way our ability to attract and retain talent, which for many of our institutions, it's still a challenge. If we are competing in terms of research with a much larger research institution, it's really hard to attract and retain talent. And FilmEU RIT deals a lot with that. So I would say that that goes in parallel with the collaborative process. Okay. So if there are no more questions, we are exactly on time. So I would once again, first of all, like to thank you all very much for your presence, both the ones that were here and the ones that were online. We would like to invite you to visit the installation in F, to then come back here at 5 to see the students' projects, which are in the end what FilmEU is all about, and then later on to come and have a glass of water with us in the garden. Verly,
Yes, that was
final words?
a big glass of water, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back with the FilmEU conference. Please check the link below and follow us on social media at FilmEU Alliance.